I'm going to record.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah.
Watch the wire. Okay, we have trip wires all over. No safety at the meeting, please. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really thrilled to be able to meet with everyone in person after years of isolation here. It seems like forever. We can get together. I shook Scott's hand today. First time I've shaken a hand in a couple of years. That's great. I missed that. That was good. So I want to talk about emergency preparedness, and I'll tell you what my message is. I want you to think not if a disaster will happen, but when a disaster will happen. That's the kind of change in perspective that will, I think, drive people to take a little more action and get a little more involved. The other message is, in the area where we live, we don't really have to do a lot because there are a number of resources that I'll talk about already in place for us, but we still need to do something. We can't rely entirely on the outside resources. Let me start with a question. If you kind of picture the whole United States, which state do you think has had the most number of declared disasters? Now, when I look through my visual image here, I think of, well, up in the Northeast, they got those blizzards and extreme colds. In the Northwest, there's flooding. There's a Midwest part of the country, I guess it's called Tornado Alley. They have their share of disasters. Down in the Gulf states, they get hurricanes and tropical storms. We have our share of wildfires in the state. We have, of course, the higher earthquake risk. But just name what states or state you think has gotten the most disaster declarations.
We're considerably bigger than any of those states you mentioned.
True, true, yeah.
Are you thinking California, Mike?
I'm afraid so, yes.
So Mike's thinking California.
I'll go Florida.
Okay, Florida is certainly in the target of a lot of heavy weather. Louisiana, definitely. They get their share, more than their share of storms. I was thinking Texas. I think they have a more fragile infrastructure. They've had some problems. When I looked this up, according to FEMA in 2020, Mike, it's California that's had the most disasters of all 50 states. So that was a little surprising to me because I did not know it was California. And that's what, to me, that answered the why part of the question. Like, why should we spend time and effort and energy preparing for a disaster? Well, because we have more than any other state. Now, the other states that were mentioned, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, are also up in the top few states as far as frequency of disasters. But California, in 2020, anyway, had the most. So that kind of gave me a little bit more focus on the why part of this. So what I want to do is first take kind of a high-level view of the setting that we're in, talk about what Villages has done, and then talk about what we can each do to improve our resiliency in the face of a disaster. We have a well-developed infrastructure. We have reliable power, reliable water supply. I can't remember the last time the power or water were interrupted at our house. It's occasionally there's a planned outage that is we're advised of in advance, but really things are really, really well developed, highly reliable utilities. We have a temperate climate. That's very key because it's the extreme climate conditions that both stress the inhabitants, but mostly they stress the infrastructure, the power system, the water system. We don't have scorching heat or freezing cold, so that's really good. We're very technology oriented. We're here on the doorstep of Silicon Valley. Everyone I know has either a computer, a smartphone, or both, an internet connection on one or both. So we're pretty well connected to get information. Another good system that we have, the SMC alert system that I'll tell you how to sign up for, it's a terrific system operated by the county sheriff's office. It's a free service. You can sign up. They'll send alerts to you on either voicemail, text, email, however you select. And it's another feed of information coming to you. It's not frequent. I might get one a week, maybe one every couple of weeks. Often there's something like a mountain lion was sighted in Los Altos. Okay, well, that doesn't affect me much, but I still, look and see whenever I hear that chime that there's an SMC alert. Since we know that California has more disasters than any other state, we know they will continue. We hope they don't, but hoping that they won't is not a plan, of course. What we have to do is prepare for the inevitable. A new site that has been launched recently is smcpreparedness.org. They are teaching to be self-sufficient for 1 week. Most of the hospitals, big organizations, are teaching their populations to be ready to be self-sufficient for 3 days following a true emergency. Because when an emergency is declared, the first responders will be taking care of the few victims of the emergency. That won't be us. Rather than victims, we'll all be survivors. But part of our surviving is being self-sufficient for 3 days while the high priority issues are addressed and while we assess our condition, see what we need. Another comment is that in an emergency, the 911 system is likely to be overwhelmed. We can't count on being able to just dial 911 and get through to an operator and get someone to come out and give us a hand. It's likely to be flooded with calls. I don't know what their surge capacity is, but it'll be there, but I think we should plan on it being overwhelmed. That plays back into our plan of being self-sufficient for 3 days. The other, I think, most important part are the tiered resources available in our locale. San Mateo County has supplies, equipment, stockpiled in a few locations around the county to mobilize in the event of an incident. The next tier above that is the state. If an emergency exceeds the county's ability to respond completely to it, they would seek resources from the state. The state also has stockpiled supplies and equipment, medications, you name it. They have water, pots, blankets, food in a few locations around the state. Those are ready to go to any county that needs additional assistance. And then, of course, beyond them is FEMA, our Federal Emergency Management Agency. If a disaster, I guess I should call it, is declared by the president, then federal resources come to us through the state and through the county. So there's an elaborate but well-tiered plan, set of resources available to us that will be mobilized in a disaster. So that being kind of our setting, let me talk about what Villages has done. Villages established an emergency preparedness committee in about 2019, end of 2019. First thing we did was to decide, well, what is our objective? And our objective is to build resilience within the village, to help everyone to be prepared and be ready to weather a disaster should one occur, when one occurs. We defined our role as that of educators, information disseminators. We take opportunities such as this one to inform people of what they can do. We have delivered Go Bag starter kits to all the members and to get them thinking along those lines and building up their kit at home. And we put articles in the newsletter, again, just to keep it forefront in people's minds that disasters will happen. We need to be ready. We then decided what is not our role. Our role is not first response. Every now and then someone will accidentally call our emergency preparedness committee the emergency response team. I always stop them right there. I know that title kind of just rolls off the tongue, emergency response team. We've all heard of those. It's clear, it's important for us to make clear that that's not what the committee does. Emergency response requires a high level of training and equipment, and it's a whole specialized expertise that is really not the direction that we can go to best serve our members. So I remind people when they do call us a response team that that's not our role. In fact, in our discussions in the committee, we thought we'd probably be in the way of the true first responders if we were out there, running around trying to do something. So we're leaving it to the pros. We're just going to be ready to take care of ourselves. We divided up, and this I think is a masterstroke, and thanks to Scott, we divided up the entire county, mapped out where all the members reside, and defined neighborhoods that captured around 8 to 12 members in each neighborhood. We then talked with volunteers who would be interested to be a neighborhood coordinator for their group. And that person could be responsible to reach out to their smaller group of members, 6 or 8, maybe 10 members, should there be an incident that required us to communicate with the members. We did a couple of drills, and we learned a lot from the drills. Drills always go until there's sort of some issues that you can't ignore, and that's the purpose of the drill, to get to those things to come right in front of you, and we did that. We learned several things from those. We have not met for a little while, but we're preparing to relaunch soon for 2022. And finally, let's see, I'm kind of racing through this. It's only 10 minutes.
There's probably going to be questions.
Good. So our setting, what Villages has done, now what can you do? Okay, so my first comment, as I said before, is to shift your perspective from if a disaster will happen to when it will happen. It will happen. There will be disasters. Our highest priority, highest possible damage event is an earthquake. Lowest probability of occurrence, yet highest potential damage. Wildfires are also very much a thing, and with our extreme drought will continue to go on. So incidents will happen. We just have to plan that they will. Sign up for SMC alerts. I'll pass out a page to everyone a little later that shows you how to do that. Know your neighbors. That's really important. It's so useful to know who your neighbors are. Maybe they can help you. Maybe you can help them. Maybe there's something you need to work on together. But knowing your neighbors is invaluable. Being self-sufficient for 3 days isn't really that tough. When I look at the list of things that we need of our supplies at home, it's very simple. You need light, so you need a flashlight or two. I have a few, one in the garage, one bedside, one in the kitchen. You need water. Let me get my show and tell pieces. For water, I just use these. I know it's tiny, but that's its advantage. The minimum recommendation for water use is 1 gallon per person per day. Now that's really very minimum. If you look at your water use, you'll find you probably use around 50 gallons per person per day with washing and everything that water is used for. But you can get by on 1 gallon a day. I keep several of these around. I just pick up one each time I'm at the market. I don't go down and get 20 of these and lug them home. I just pick up one. When I get it, I write the date on the cap. This one was from February of 2021. I keep them for a year, and then I rotate new ones in. So I usually have about 8 or 10 of those in a little storage shelf downstairs. And they're all dated, so I know when I can take it out and use it to water the garden. It's certainly drinkable after a year, but that's just sort of a guideline I use, 1 year. And that way keeps me from carrying around anything in a big 5-gallon container that weighs a ton. And They're always available at the market and easy to handle, easy to move around. So that's the thing for water. Keep at least one per person per day. I keep about 5 per person per day. Just, you never know. Good to have a few more. They can sit there, not take up much space, and be ready to use. That's water. For food, I keep a couple boxes of these protein bars around. When I eat one of these, I'm not hungry for hours, you know. And I'm not promoting any brand, but there are numbers of brands. There any other food that can be eaten without cooking. Crackers, cheese, peanut butter. I think we probably all have a lot of things in our kitchens that can be eaten without a lot of prep required. This is why I say we need to do something, but we don't need to do much. We need to keep a few extra food items, a few extra water containers, a few flashlights. All else we'd need besides food, water, and light is warmth. Maybe not today, but we have blankets, we have jackets. I think we have what we need for most of those things. Finally, you need to prepare and post a file of life form. When Deborah first contacted me, let me get this by the camera, she said, can you come and talk about the file of life? Well, I thought, yes, it's very important. We need to all keep up on our file of life posting. But that's really, it's such a short item to discuss. I wanted to add these other background pieces to the discussion. So file of life, I've talked to the fire department staff, I've talked to paramedics, EMTs. They all say, absolutely, we recognize that. We love seeing those. We assign, when we go into a house, if there's a medical emergency, we have to go in. One person is always assigned to scan for a file of life. They look on the refrigerator, they're magnetic. The little envelope is magnetic. Most people with stainless steel refrigerators can't stick these on there though. But you could just tape it on, you know, don't need to use the magnet. And this contains all the information that they're going to ask you or someone else in your house if there's a medical emergency. It's all in one place. In the event of a medical emergency, you're probably not going to want to walk around and look for each of these entries somewhere in a file cabinet or in a wallet or handbag or something. It saves valuable time, huge time saver, to have everything in one place, everything on the card. When I first looked at this, I thought, oh, that's easy. It's a little 3x5 card. Well, then Mike knows. Then I pulled it out. Oh, wait, no, it's a big long form. Oh, it's two-sided. Well, when I went through it, I thought, this is a check the box form. I can do this in 10 minutes, and I think I did. It took maybe 10, 15 minutes to do the whole thing. We have 2 posted, my wife and I. And you don't need to fill out every single blank on the form. Put in the information that you know, the information that would be useful to a medical responder, and tuck it away, and it's good, you know, you're good for a year. You can revisit it if there's a change in your insurance or if there's any other medical change that you think should be noted. But this is a huge time saver. Even if I had all the information, if there's an emergency in our house, I wouldn't want to be rattling it off to a paramedic. I'd rather they just pull the card out and have everything they need. It's well worth the 10 or 15 minutes of research to fill in the blanks and check the boxes. So I encourage everyone, as part of your preparedness, to complete a file of life. We have a batch of these. If anyone does not have one, let us know. We will provide this to you now. And finally, pack a go bag. Now, this again is something that it's a little bothersome. Well, what do I need and what sort of bag? Well, a rolling suitcase is great. Those suitcases, in our case, sit empty, 10 months out of the year in our storage space. Well, we just used 2 of those. I was inspired by Scott's video on that, and the list of what goes in there is on here, and I think that will all make sense when you look at that. So I know I've been rambling a little. That's kind of my style. I hit some important points. I was going to give a disclaimer at the middle that I tend to kind of ramble from point to point, but I think the message came through that we live in a great part of the world. We have a lot of resources available to us. We still need to do our part to be ready for at least 3 days of self-sufficiency. So that's really the key thing. And the other point is, it's not when a disaster, or it's not if a disaster happens, but it's when. And as you know now, we had more disasters in 2020 than any other state. So they're not going to stop overnight. We'd like them to. They won't. They'll continue. So let me pass these out. And if there are any questions, maybe you could assist. Let me take a couple. Thank you. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to.
And for the people that are on Zoom, you guys can unmute and ask you can use the raise a hand button or raise your actual hand. You have a question?
Oh, yes,
I
Mike.
do have a comment to the list of flashlight, food, water, and extra meds.
Yes, yes. It's on the, I think I have here on item 3, supplies to keep at home. Yes. First aid kit, extra medications, even extra glasses. If you have an old pair of glasses, throw that in your go bag if you haven't outgrown that prescription.
The other things, a lot of people wear those medical alert bracelets.
Yes.
That's another factor of the file of life.
Yes, yes. But yeah, just note that there's a bracelet on the patient in your file of life, and that ties all that information together. So, did you have a question?
Where are the emergency supplies kept in Fairfield County? Any idea?
I don't really know specifically. They're purposely kept kind of off, out of the mainstream of traffic and knowledge. They're kind of guarded. There's some controlled items in there, medications and things like that. So I do not know where they are, but probably. That's probably one of a few places that they have. They were like in industrial, places where there are warehouses that can be secured and monitored. So, yeah, I don't know. I know where some of the state ones are in the Central Valley, but I don't know the county ones.
Central Valley's too far.
Way too far, yes.
Jack, I think that I was going to say for the people that are on Zoom, this would be really helpful, but maybe we should send this to everybody. So the Zoomers, we'll send this list to you and all the, it'll just go out to everybody on the BSMC email list. What did you learn in the practice, the drills?
Well, we learned the way it works. Let me just summarize the drill first. We had a kind of a simulated event where the command center, Scott, me, Bob DeFranco, a few people, started a drill that, I forget the scenario, probably was an earthquake swarm, something like that. We just made up something that is likely to happen. That we would contact all the neighborhood coordinators, either text, I think we agreed on text because everyone gets those immediately and it's very simple. And they would then call their neighborhoods and let them know what was going on, see if they needed any assistance. What we learned was, one thing is many of the members use answering machines, especially for calls from an unrecognized number. And I've done that myself. So we need to revisit how the neighborhood coordinator will contact the members. And is a phone call the best? Text, email, what's the best way? Let's see, what was one of the, that was sort of the glaring break in the link, was getting a message right to a member when, I've not answered unrecognized phone calls sometimes, and I can understand members don't either. We learned that some of the neighborhood coordinators were out of hand, out of town, what have you. We have 2 neighborhood coordinators in each neighborhood to cover for that. That didn't meet our requirements even with 2 in all cases. We still made hundreds of phone calls, hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, got to a lot of members, and we felt like if there was an earthquake swarm that caused damage, there would be public media that would get information out of what to do. We still want to contact our members. Do you recall, Scott, any other?
Well, you mentioned that having 2 coordinators per neighborhood
Yeah.
sometimes wasn't enough because they might both be unavailable or out of town.
Yep.
So we learned that we had to have some reserve coordinators.
Right, right. Some kind of floating coordinator who could step in and cover a neighborhood in the event that the people were not available. So, I'm sure we'll do another drill and see how we've closed that gap. Yes.
I was just thinking, I was one of the neighborhood coordinators.
Great.
And I have no idea where my list of the neighborhood people are. So that would be something I would need.
Oh yeah,
Or if there's new people or people have left.
we'll have to kind of reboot the system, because it's been a couple months since we've met. We have to kind of reboot, remessage the coordinators, transmit lists out, because membership lists have changed a little too. So yeah, it would be a whole new start. Yes, Mike.
I was a neighborhood coordinator too, and I believe you did a second one where we were asked to actually drive to the doors and report back how quickly we could knock on the door of each person.
Well, we did, during our drill, we did not, we've done a few things, but we did not, in our drill, require or ask coordinators to visit the houses. We did what's called a tabletop drill initially, where we talked about that possibility, and if people had to couldn't contact a member, maybe they'd have to go to the house to see if they're okay. But during the drill, we did not do that. That's still, it's possible in a real scenario, on a real event. But our neighborhoods are pretty small, and maybe a square mile or so, and so I think it's a doable thing. But I'm not sure I started rambling there again. I'm not sure I addressed your concern.
No, just comment.
Okay, good. Yes,
Sounds like you went above and beyond, like you went to everyone's house.
I was thinking, we did some deliveries too.
Yes.
And I was
Yeah,
thinking
right.
At one point, we were asked to report and we completed it.
Right, we delivered
the Sears candy and.
Yeah.
What was the
the
other?
go bag starter
Go
kits.
back.
Yeah, but even before that, it was the.
There was a little label of frequently contacted numbers that was magnetic, and people could attach that, and
Oh, right, that was first.
that was
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
the precursor to the file of life. It was just a short form. So
Bundt cake.
And the bundt cakes, yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
right, yeah, the emergency bundt cake.
Craig, how do
And some
other
meal.
villages, how do they approach?
I don't know. I have not yet interfaced to find out where they are with emergency preparedness and drills and such. I think we're doing a lot, and I think by setting up our system, our neighborhoods, and conducting some drills, I think we're doing quite well. We've done really, I think, a lot, if I do say so myself.
Craig, I have a question for people that are in the room here and also for the Zoomers at home. And you mentioned that we handed out the Go Bag starter kit to all members and volunteers at that time. We've had new members and new volunteers. I think new members are probably covered because our member coordinators have a supply of kits. But I'm not sure all new volunteers are getting Go Bag starter kits. Is there anybody participating in this meeting who does not have a kit? Raise your hand and we'll be sure you get one.
Or if you don't know what that is.
You don't have one? Okay, Elaine, we'll get one. We have them right. I have a box of them right here.
On the left.
Zoomers, that doesn't do you much good, but Elaine, you can take them. Yeah. And people at home, I don't see any hands being raised.
I don't see any on my monitor here. Oh,
Oh,
here's
there is
one.
one. Okay, and what's your name?
We don't have audio.
Terry Lynn, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
What's your name again?
First name Terry,
Okay.
last name Lynn.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, we will get a go bag starter kit to you.
Thanks.
And it's like, again, it's the starter kit. It's not a go bag, but it's enough to know what kind of things. It includes a list of things you should add to build it out into a complete go bag for you.
Frank, do you want to show people what's in it?
Sure.
Or to stop them.
And I'm adding this so that you can show.
Okay. Yes. Okay. And okay. So this, yeah, this is our go bag starter kit. It's, you know, a 1 gallon Ziploc bag to just get you thinking along the lines. It contains a flashlight and batteries, first aid kit, whistle, Mylar blanket, pen and paper, hand sanitizer, alcohol wipes, Kleenex, and face masks. You can tell this is built for a pandemic, so this is really good. And then item 2 are all the things you should consider adding to build it into a kit when you put this in your roll-on bag. And I won't read those, but you know, clothing, jackets, toiletries, some cash, backup glasses, phone charger, things like that. So it's all listed here on the back, and we'll be sure that everyone gets one. And I think we probably put this in there, maybe not. Good, yeah. Okay, good.
Although, make sure they know.
Another general comment, I'm a CERT volunteer.
Okay.
And I remember when I first got my CERT bag, you put things in the trunk of your car, you just assume you'll be able to open your garage door. And in an earthquake, that might not happen.
Yes, yes. Yes, that's true. We all just have that button to push, and that's that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Well, it takes a little courage, but you can do a drill at home quite easily, either by turning off the power or pretending you don't have power. So how are you going to get your car out of the garage without power? Well, there's a way to do that, but not many of us practice that. So that's a good comment. It's yeah, if you're really feeling adventurous, you could turn off the power to some or all rooms, and then you'll discover what things you're up against and find some workarounds. So that's true.
Most garage doors have an emergency opener though.
Right. Yeah, they do. They all have some release mechanism that then you have to lift the thing. So it still takes some doing, but people need to kind of practice some of those skills that they may need should there be a disaster that requires them. Okay, now I'm getting more. Well, we've had I think a good attendance. You know, we have lots of people on Zoom, lots of people in the meeting. So, okay, good. If there are no other questions, and if there, yes.
What if our infrastructure was turned off by some sort of computer virus or something? What would you do then?
Yeah, like the Colonial Pipeline example on the East Coast. Well, that's why I promote the 3 days of self-sufficiency concept, because those big problems like ransomware that are well out of our ability to affect, the best thing we can do is to be completely self-sufficient and not, you know, not need the responders to come to us when they can be addressing those bigger problems. So, yeah, ransomware issues are a little scary, but certainly something we could not affect at our level. So.
Backpacking service or
It's really good. Then you have the water and the
Oh, yeah.
clothes to stay warm.
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
Frank, can I just make a comment?
Yes.
In the news almost every day now, we see people who had to think about their go bag. millions of them in Ukraine. And I mean, we're not gonna have a war here, God forbid, but there are people all around the world that need to be thinking, what should I have at the ready?
Yeah.
To go in case I have to move out of my house and my town right away.
Yeah.
Think about how many people had to move in a hurry.
Oh, I know.
So if that might ever happen to you for whatever reason, that's why it's so important to get your go bag ready to go.
A friend of mine was evacuated years ago in San Diego, and the sheriff came to his front door and said, "We're going right now." He couldn't even go back and get his prescription. He couldn't do anything. He just had to go right out the front with the officer who let him know it's evacuating. And yeah, having that bag by the door in that coat closet by the front door is invaluable. You know, those are survivors that have those. Yes,
This
sir.
is gonna sound like it's on the humorous side, but
I'm all for that.
AAA had an announcement on the radio, I don't know, a couple months ago, and they were saying they made a list of things that people who go on vacation forget to take. And the three highest ones were toothbrush, you use it that morning, you put it back on the stand.
Right.
Hair product, okay, we can live without both of those. Phone charger. And without a phone charger, how long would you last? Think about it.
Oh, yeah. I meant to bring in my show and tell pieces a little power block.
Yes.
I forgot, speaking of forgetting things, forgot my phone charger. It's about, it's about the size, it's not even
Sorry,
half,
deck of cards.
about like a couple of decks of cards. And that thing will charge the phone fully 2 or 3 times. And that would last me a week if I really need it. So that is on our list here of things to add: phone charger, little battery pack. One other item in our emergency preparedness committee, we researched everything. We looked at generators, radios. We looked into all sorts of things to see how they applied to us. I wanted to just show one other item that's on wheels, so I can wheel it over.
You can also use my phone.
If you have a situation where you must have electric, I should look this way. And if you have a situation where you must have electric power for something, don't mess with a generator. Just pull starting a gasoline generator is fraught with problems, and not to mention the gasoline itself. This is a battery pack. It has all these outlets, and these are USB outlets. 4 of those, about 6 regular 110 outlets. And I charge it up from solar panels, but you don't need to do that. You can charge it, just plug it into the wall. After 3 or 4 hours, it's fully charged. It keeps a charge probably for a year. I charged this about 6 months ago, and it was at 96%. I haven't used it for 6 months. And this thing can power it. I was telling Marianne that I plugged everything in our living room into this, the TV, the router, the lights, the fan, everything, and ran it for 6 hours and used like 25% of its capacity. So they're a great power source if you have a condition where you need to have power for something. It gets away from fuel-powered mechanical generators. Now, what's the downside? It's really heavy. It took 2 of us just to get it on this rolling thing. It takes 2 people typically to move around. There are smaller ones. You can get one that's about a quarter size of this. It'll have, fewer of everything, but it'll still run, a couple rooms in your house for a few hours. So
How much? And like an REI, where would you get it?
REI may have them. I got this from Amazon, I suppose. They're a little pricey. This was $1,500. But you can get, like I say, a smaller one that's easier to tote around and for, accordingly lower price. Really, really worth having. I've used this just a couple of times. One was just kind of to test what I could power from it. When we did have an announced power outage, I used it for that. It works fine. Just a big block of power outlets and filled with heavy batteries. So it's the kind of thing you want to put somewhere where you can keep and just run an extension cord from it to what you need to plug in. I could probably run a refrigerator or two from this for a day. It's impressive amount of power in these. So that's one of the things we wanted to mention. We roll this off.
Refrigerator for a day.
Okay, well, I think we're kind of at time, and if there are no other questions, thanks for the chance to give you my take on emergency preparedness. Thanks for your attention, because, you know, we'll all be the survivors. We'll be the prepared ones. We'll have the food, the water, the lights, the batteries if we need them, and the go bags, hopefully we'll never need. A lot of the stuff we hope we'll never need, but it's better to have it and not need it, as they say. Thanks very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Dora.